Hello friends and fans, and welcome to another episode of Wine and Canvas Online. My name is Bird, and I'm going to be your instructor this evening. And this is the beautiful painting that we'll be doing. First thing is our paintbrushes. At Wine and Canvas, we refer to our paintbrushes by number. Number 1 being our smallest brush, and all the way up to number 4 being our largest brush. So if I tell you guys that we're going to use our number 3 brush, if you have them in your kit, hold them up. Even though I can't see them, I bet you guys are doing this right, and you're holding up the right brush. The next thing that we're going to go over is our paint. Paint is a little bit messy, so we always recommend for people to put an apron on. If you don't have an apron in your house, that's fine. If you get it on your clothing, it will wash out as long as you wash it within 48 hours. We always tell everybody to go home, throw a little shout on it, give it a slight scrub, and throw it in the washer. As long as you do so within 48 hours, it will come out. However, if you don't wash it within 48 hours, it won't come out. And trust me, you don't want to ruin your clothing like I do. I can wrap myself with a trash bag and still get paint all over me. It happens. It's fine, just remember, wash it within 48 hours. And as long as you do that, it will come out. Another thing about your paint is, if you mistake your drinking container, which hopefully everyone has one next to them, either beer or wine, this is Wine and Canvas after all, you've got to have that. Trust me, it makes your paint look so much better throughout the course of the class. And don't forget, if you don't have any and you want some for a future class with us, we do now deliver beer and wine to your house with your supplies. All you got to do is email us your order, and we will make sure that that is delivered to your home with your supplies for the class. If you mistake your drink container for your water, I cannot promise you that your teeth won't discolor, but it's okay. As long as you brush your teeth within 48 hours, guess what? It'll come out, right? And it's okay. Go ahead and drink your drink. You don't want to waste it if you purchased it. It is non-toxic paint and it won't harm you, I promise. It happens to me all the time when I am painting late at night, trying to get our paintings done for all of you in our future classes. I'll be painting and I dip my paintbrush into my coffee, and rule of thumb at my house is you don't waste my coffee. So I still drink it. Does my teeth discolor? I hope not. Thing that you're going to need is a cup. Now, here at Wine and Canvas Online Studio, we use our handy Wine and Canvas cup. You might not have one of these, but if you don't, that's okay. As long as you have a paper cup, a plastic cup, styrofoam cup, a mason jar, or even a cup from your cupboard, that's okay. Just know that after you get done with class, the paint will wash out if it's a cup that you're wanting to save and put back into the cupboard. All you got to do is wash it, and it'll be perfectly fine, just like it was before. And the very last thing that you're going to need, which most of you probably don't have at your house unless you paint a lot at your home, is an easel. But that's okay. We actually delivered an easel to you with your supplies. You don't believe me? It's your pizza box. And we are getting ready to show you how you can turn your pizza box into an easel, just like this.
You heard the gentleman, easel. Hit the road. It's time to bring in a real delivery expert. First thing you're going to want to do is to open up your pizza box and lay it on its side. You're then going to snip with a pair of sharp scissors down each end. Repeat this step on both sides. And then you're going to want to cut those flaps all the way down the center. Look at them go. Save your scraps from cutting that down both sides. You're going to use them to feed through the slots on your pizza box lid. Line it up with the other side. Cut an adjacent slit. Fold it over, and then if you want, you can bring in reinforcements. once you set it up, you'll see that it's created a nice stable easel to hold your canvas. Happy painting!
Without further ado, let's get into our painting. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our number 4 brush, and we're going to continuously dip into our water cup and start smearing water all over the whole front of our canvas. The reason why we want to do this is because the acrylic paint, as spoken about before, dries really fast. And by putting water on our canvas, it is going to enable us to manipulate our paint a little bit more prior to it drying. And in this painting, we're going to want to manipulate the paint quite a bit to get all the fades of the effect of the wood grain. You just want to get all that water all over the whole front of the canvas. Here we're using brown, still using my number 4 brush. I'm just going to pick up some brown and pull a big chunk of white, mix a little bit of that brown in with our white. Now you have a paper plate in your paint kit. You'll want to do the exact same thing to about the consistency that I have here. Don't know if you can see the color here. But once you do, you're going to load your brush up and you're going to start smearing it all over the whole canvas. This is what we call a base color. We want to get our base color on before we start putting our other layers of our painting on here. Quite a bit of this, so if you start running out, just simply mix a little bit more right on top of where you mixed it before and go back at it. Using a little bit of water on the tip of your bristles when you're doing this is going to help this spread a whole lot faster and a whole lot easier. The water makes the paint a little bit thinner and it makes it smooth all the way across the canvas. Now while you're doing your base color, go ahead and wrap that paint onto your side edges as well as the top edge. The last thing you want to do once you get done with your beautiful painting is to hang it up and realize that you have those big white borders. We want to go ahead and cover those up with the paint as we're in the middle of doing our painting. Look how smooth the paint goes on when you use a little bit of water. Now when I do technique like this, all I'm doing is these little bitty X patterns. I just want to get the paint all over the canvas, and then I will focus on starting the wood grain effect simply by taking my brush side to side on the canvas which will start creating the wood grain effect by the streaks of the bristles. So now I've got my paint all over the canvas. What I'm going to do is take that same number 4 brush, and I am going to start going back and forth. Just go back and forth. If our wood grain was more of a vertical angle, then we would actually be doing this going up and down. But since our wood grain is horizontal, we want to go back and forth with our brush. The paint bristles are actually leaving little streaks in the paint, which gives you that first effect of your wood grain. I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to mix it right into that tan color that we mixed for our base. I'm just going to mix it right in there. Now the idea is we're going to go in and we're going to do these streaks, and I'm going to hold my brush to where the bristles are horizontal, and I'm going to go in and do these periodic streaks. There's no rhyme or reason to these. You just want to get them wherever you want them to go. Wherever your brush falls, just let those things live right there. Now I'm going to turn my brush to where my bristles are vertical, and I'm going to very lightly start going back and forth and smoothing my yellow into the tan. Just keep going back and forth, smooth it in, and do this until it's the consistency the way that you like it. Before we go any further, we're going to want to take our paintbrush and we're going to clean it out. The best way to do so is to take your paintbrush and just lightly jab it to the bottom of the cup, which then will pull all the paint out of those bristles. Once I get done doing that, I'm going to wipe my paintbrush onto my paper towels to get all that water out of art. Now next I am going to take that same number 4 brush, and I am going to hold my paintbrush to where my bristles are horizontal, and I am going to pick up the tiniest little bit of brown on both sides, and I'm going to go once again just like we did our yellow, and I'm going to do these periodic brown streaks. Rinse my brush out just like we did before, and once again I will hold my bristles to where they are vertical, and I'm going to go in and start fading the brown streaks into the rest of the colors. You want to be very light-handed when you do this. Very, very light-handed. I'm not pressing real hard. I'm just very lightly going back and forth, periodically dipping the very tip of my bristles into some water, which will help this fade. And as you can tell, it's starting to create nice smooth brown streaks. It's starting to give more of an impression of wood grain. The more that we do this, the more of a wood grain effect that we get. And you can put those brown streaks anywhere you want. The good thing about wood grain paintings is there's no rhyme or reason to it. So there's no wrong way to do this. There's so many different kinds of wood that your painting could be made out of. Just let it flow. Maybe you got your own kind of wood. Maybe you went and chopped your own wood down in your backyard and you're painting on it right now. Just whatever your imagination tells you it is. I'm liking how smooth that's looking. I'm still going to use my brown and my number 4 brush, but now what we want to do is we want to go and hold our brush at a 45-degree angle. As soon as you touch the canvas like so, you're just going to lightly pull. I'm not pressing, I'm just touching the canvas and pulling. In essence, I'm just scratching the edge of the canvas with holding my brush at a 45-degree angle. Right now what we're wanting to do is give our painting a weathered effect. Maybe this wood has sat outside for a long time after you painted on it, and it has begun to warp a little bit and give the effect of deeper cracks and a little bit of age right there on the side. I'm going to do this on both sides, across the top and a little bit across the bottom. Then we're going to go over to our left side. We're going to start doing the same thing. Just hold your brush at 45, lightly touch the canvas and pull, just scratching the face of that canvas. You don't want to push, because if you push, you're actually going to start making the other colors go away. And we want those colors to still show, so just be as light-handed as possible. Once you get your edges done, next thing I'm going to do is, once again, I'm going to turn my brush to where it's horizontal. I'm going to go in and start doing a little bit more streaks, giving a little bit more pressure than we were just a moment ago. And I am going to pull some of the paint that we just placed on the edges across the canvas, once again giving the impression of deeper cracks. Okay, and once we get done doing our brown and you get it to the way that you like it, we're going to step away from this for about 10 minutes and let that background dry. We don't want to go in and do anything more until it dries thoroughly, so that way it doesn't mess up anything that we've already done, and you can actually place your hand on the canvas when we're doing our next steps without getting paint all over your hand. So if you need to use the restroom, whatever you need to do, go ahead and pause the video for about 10 minutes. And once your painting is dry, come back in and press play, and we'll get back into our next step. Pull a little bit of brown on that number 3 brush. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go on the left side. I'm going to go 2 fingers over from the very edge, and using just the very corner of my brush, I'm going to place a little dot. Then I'm going to go up to the top, and I'm going to go 3 fingers down, and I'm going to place a little dot approximately right above where we placed the other dot. Then I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to go halfway down my canvas there. And we're going to go 3 fingers up from our halfway point. And once again, we're going to place a 3rd dot. This is going to give us the height of our letter. We're going to start with our letter H. And once again, we're still using our number 3 brush. And I'm going to pick up some brown. And I'm going to start at the top and just start pulling down. We want to go approximately 2 paintbrushes width wide on each side of our letters. So the one side of my H will be approximately 2 paintbrushes wide. And down here on the bottom, we're going to put what I like to call a little triangle. I'm going to make this triangle shaped where it looks like the top point of that triangle is mixed in with the bar that we just had coming down. And the only thing that you really see is the 2 bottom corners of that triangle sticking out. Then we're going to do the same thing up top. The only difference is we'll have that triangle to where it looks like it's pointing down. Now the good thing about this is it does not have to be perfect right now. Right now we're just giving ourselves an idealistic shape, and we'll go back in later on with our number 2 brush to define the edges a little bit better. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go 4 fingers over. I'm going to go right in the very center there. And I'm going to place another little dot, giving myself the idea of where the other side of this H is going to go. Then we're going to follow the same steps that we did on the other side. Forget to put the points of your triangles in. Those are important to make our letters the unique letters that we're wanting to make them. once we get done with that side of the H, the next thing we're going to do is do our crossbar, connecting the two parts of our H. Now all I'm going to do is go in the very center, hold my bristles to where they are horizontal, and just go straight across. I don't want it to be super thick or as thick as the sides, but I don't want it to be super thin either. Now if you see here, we're going to go a whole hand width down, or 4 fingers down. And I'm going to place another little dot right under my H, 4 fingers down. We're going to go ahead and start doing our M. And then we go over to the left side here. I'm going to do the top of this side of the M, the same height of where we placed the dot over on the left side. And we're going to follow the exact same rules that we did with our H. We're going to start on the left, we're going to go down, and we're going to thicken it up the width of 2 paintbrush. If you see some of the color in your background peeking through your brown, that's perfectly fine. We will be going back over this a little bit after it dries some, just to define those areas. Now, like I said, we're just giving ourselves the idealistic shape of each one of these letters. And we'll go back in and we'll fix them up a little bit as we work on this painting. Okay, so once I get done with that side, now I'm going to give myself the center of my M, just to give myself an idea of where it's going to go. And we're going to bring this thing over a little bit more here. Let's come on down with it. I'm picking up these center parts. Important you get your shape the way that you like it. Once again, I'm not going to really define the edges or clean it up too much, but I want to get that shape to where at least I like the way that it looks before we move on. And the next thing we're going to do is go over to our E, and we're going to go 3 fingers over from our M. and place a little dot with the corner of our brush. Then once again, we're going to follow the exact same steps that we've done with our H and our M. I'm going to come over with the top of my E to where I'm approximately 3 fingers over from the right side of my canvas. Do the same thing with the bottom. I'm approximately 3 fingers away from the right side of my canvas, and I am approximately the same height as my M is. Now when we go to do our triangles, like we did on our other letters, the E's a little bit different. As we go to do the triangle on these, we're going to only see the top corner on the bottom of our E, and then on the top we'll only see the bottom corner. In the center of our E, we're only going to go halfway over. And when we go to add the triangle to this center part, it's going to look like our triangle is actually sideways. And you will see 2 of the corners, just like you did on the other letters when we done those. Now if you want, go ahead and clean up your edges just a little bit more. You're going to want to do this before we go and do our heart, because after our heart and key, we're going to let this thing dry once more. If you feel like I'm moving at a fast pace, don't hesitate to pause. You can pause this video, catch up, and then unpause it, then we can work together again. I don't want you to feel rushed. That is the good thing about YouTube videos. You can pause us and come back and go in at your own pace. Now we're going to go and we're going to start doing our heart. Now we want the heart to be approximately as wide as our E and as tall as our H. Now I'm going to go into the center of my E and take my finger up, and I'm going to just come slightly down from the height of our H and place a little dot. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put another dot down on the bottom. And once we do this, we're going to play connect the dots. We're going to do half of our heart on one side first, and then half of our heart on the other side. And I'm going to start over on the right side, still using my number 3 brush and a little bit of water with my brown. And I am going to start at the top dot and then swirl my brush around and come back down until I come to the point of the bottom dot. Once you do this, simply fill it in. Your line work for your heart doesn't have to be perfect. As you can tell, the left side of mine is a little bit off. But once we go to fill it in, you can fix those rough edges to where it looks more natural. going to take our number 2 brush, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to start crisping the edges of all of my letters. With the number 2 brush, it's a lot more of a tight fit, so you should be able to get a lot cleaner edges using this brush. Now once again, you don't have to have your edges perfectly straight. This is a wood grain painting, and we want it to look like this wood has been sitting outside for a while. Now here I'm still going to use my number 2 brush, and we're going to go in and we're going to start doing our key. Right hand side of my H, and right above my M, in between the two, and I'm going to go in and place a little circle. Thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the right hand side of this circle, and I am going to place 2 lines going up and down touching the circle. The first one is going to be a little bit taller than the second. Second one will be a little bit shorter. And then we're going to go in and we are going to do a horizontal line coming approximately half the length of your paintbrush over. We want to try to make it look like this key is approximately centered from both left and right of the canvas. Once we get that part done, just put a little bitty line right under that. And then once again, just like on the right side of our circle, we're going to put another smaller line under that. Now holding my brush to where my bristles are horizontal, I'm going to go in, I want to draw a little bitty line, and on the very end, on both sides of that line, I'll have a little hook line coming up, giving us the shape of our key. Go in, darken it up a little bit, clean up your edges. I'm going to go to my number 1 brush. If you get water on your number 1 brush and kind of roll it around in your thumb and finger, it's going to give it a nice point. I'm using a little bit of water. I'm going to keep mixing a little bit of water into my brown, and then I will pull my brush, loading it, and I'm turning my brush as I do so. I'm going to go into the center of the circle, and we're going to place a little bitty triangle in the center of that circle coming off of the right edge. So a little bitty triangle. And I will then have a little line kind of Ving off of the very tip of that triangle. And then one more line coming straight out. It almost makes it look like a little chicken foot. Then I want to repeat the process on the outer edge of the key ring. I'm going to do a little triangle. And then I'm going to do another little triangle on both top and bottom of that one, giving it the impression of a little crown. Again, go define it a little bit more and darken it in. I want to go on either side of that crown shape, and I'm going to place a little hoop, and then I'm going to put a little dot on the very end of each one of those points of the crown. Now there's the impression of our key. We got our letters done.
Once you get done finalizing the little details on the sides of your letters with your number 2 brush, once again, we're going to let this dry. We don't want to go in and try to do our highlights in this with the brown still wet, because if we do, it's just going to mud our colors, and we want those highlights to pop out. Then we'll go back in with a little bit of black. And the last thing that we're going to do is just go back in with a little bit more dark to give the wood grain effect, going right in front of those letters to where it looks like those letters were naturally painted onto that wood, and you can still see the wood grain going through it. So go ahead, if you want, pause this video and go do whatever you need to do for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll get back to it in about 10 minutes.
I'm going to start off by pulling a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white, and a little bit of brown. And I'm going to try to match the color that we originally created for our base coat in the background of our painting when we first started. I'm going to hold my bristles up close to the canvas just to make sure it's approximately the same. And we want to go into the center of our heart and make our keyhole. So I'll start off with a circle, and then I'm going to do a line on both sides of the bottom of that circle, flaring out. And then I'll connect those two lines with a line going horizontal across the bottom. I'm going to fill that whole area in with that color that we just mixed. This is creating the effect of our keyhole. Now I cleaned my number 2 brush out. Once again, I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of yellow. I'm going to put some yellow streaks in this keyhole that we created, just like we did when we were doing our background. Then I'll pick up a little bit of brown, put a few little brown streaks going through there, make it look like some of that wood grain shows through. Then I'm going to rinse my brush out again and then lightly fade it in. Just lightly fade it in. If you get some of that color coming out into your heart, that's perfectly fine. You can always pick up a little bit of brown and just go back in and clean up those edges. Once again, giving yourself the impression of your keyhole. And then we're going to switch to our number 1 brush. And with this number 1 brush, we're going to want to go and add some black details inside our heart. So I'm going to use some water and mix with my black. And just like I did my brown, I'm going to pull my brush through the watered down black and twist the brush as I'm doing so. And then I'm going to go in around the keyhole and I'm going to put a little black outline. It's not right on the edge. It still has a little bit of brown showing between the black line and the keyhole itself. But I want to do this all the way around my keyhole. And as you notice, I place my pinky on the canvas to keep my hand steady when I'm doing a line. Trying to hover your hand over is not easy. Now I'm going to once again go in and do a black outline right on the inside edge of our heart. It's not right on the very edge. It still has a little bit of brown showing, but I want to put this black line all the way around. Now we're going to go add some designs in. I'm going to go on both sides on the top where our heart curves. And I'm going to do an upside down C where that C is actually touching one another on both sides. And it's touching the inner line that we put on the edge of our heart. Starting to give just a little bit of a tribal effect. Then I'm going to go right under both of those on both sides. I'm going to place a little black circle, which is on either side on the top of our keyhole. Down on the bottom, and I'm going to put a backward C and one mirroring it, going right down into the corner. And then I will once again do a little C pattern that's touching those two. This time it is facing upwards. And once we get done with that, we're going to go ahead and rinse our brush out. And we're going to go in and we're going to start doing some white highlights. These white highlights is what's going to make everything pop. So we definitely want to add those in. It's going to give a whole lot more character to our painting here. Now, I'm going to start off with watering down just a little bit of my white using my number 1 brush. And as I load it, I will pull my brush through the watered down white and twist it to give myself a nice crisp point on the tip of my brush. Now I'm going to start off on the top of my heart, and I want to add a white line on top of everything that I'm doing. On top of the heart, on top of the designs that we put inside the heart, as well as on top of the keyhole itself. Now we will do some white highlights going down the edges, but I want to focus the majority of those white highlights that's coming down on the edges on the right side. That's both the letters as well as the heart. Give it the impression that the majority of your light source is coming from the right corner, the upper right corner. As you notice, once again, I'm keeping my pinky placed on the canvas, and I actually glide my hand across the canvas to keep my hand steady, and it gives me a nice crisp line opposed to trying to hover your hand over the canvas and getting a line. It's going to be really difficult for you to get a crisp line that way. People that have been painting for many years still have a hard time just hovering their hand and getting a nice crisp line. So don't be afraid to put your hand on the canvas to steady your hand. Now we're going to go over to our letters. Now the center bar of our H, I want it to look like it's kind of pointing in. It's bowing in on both sides. So I will go and do a little white triangle poking away from the crossbar. Once again, I'm going to focus my white highlights more on the top and the right side of every one of my letters. If you don't water your paint down, you're not going to be able to get nice long lines like this. So you want to make sure that you mix a little bit of water in with your paint before you go try to do these lines. Now with my E, that center bar, I'm going to once again follow the same rule that I did with my crossbar to my H. I want it to look like it's kind of protruding in to the part of the E that is going vertical. Almost gives a little bit of a 3D effect with these white highlights. And with our key, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to focus our white highlights more on the right side of every part of the key as well as the top. And we want to do the same thing in our little triangle pieces that we put in. I want to make it look like that light is just reflecting off of everything that we just painted. Now the last thing that we're going to do, I'm going to once again pick up my number 4 brush. I'm going to pick up some brown, put a little bit of water in with it and mix it together. And I want to once again go in and start giving the effect of some of these woodcuts. So I'm going to hold my brush horizontal. I'm going to go in and very lightly just pull that paintbrush across the canvas. I'm barely touching it. I'm not pressing real hard. You want those lines to be a little bit thinner. Now if you decide that you want to do thicker lines, it's fine, just simply press a little bit harder. I want it to look like that wood has started to split over time and it's starting to crack even into the letters that have been painted onto the wood. To get a nice crisp edge, as you can tell, I'm just simply pulling my brush onto my palette and flipping it to repeat it on both sides. It's giving me that nice crisp edge to get these thinner lines. And go in and add a little bit more of that rustic aged effect onto the edges. You're going to add these effects in until you're thoroughly satisfied with the way that your painting's looking. Now if you feel like you got a little bit too much brown, simply go back in with a little bit of yellow, white, and brown with that background color that we originally started with, and just put some of that right back on top of where you think it's a little too dark. And it will lighten it back up some. But just remember, there is no rhyme or reason to where or how you put your dark or your light on. Now once you get done with that, the last thing we're going to do is go in and sign our painting. Typically artists will sign the lower left or right hand corner. You can sign it there or you can sign it anywhere else that you want. To do so, you're going to use your number 1 brush and you're going to water down whatever color paint that you choose to sign with. Now you're not going to want to use a color paint that is going to clash in the area where you want to sign it. So in other words, if you're using a light color, you're going to want to put it in a darker area where the paint is. I find it easier for me to sign the lower right hand corner of my paintings, and I always use a color that's completely opposite from where the color that I'm signing it is.
So
I want to thank all of you guys for painting with me this evening. I hope that you had a wonderful time. We try to make our paintings as fun as possible for you, even in the studio or at home. It doesn't matter. It's all important and it's all fun. If you're not having fun doing it, then why do it at all? Also, don't forget, if you return our paintbrushes to us, we'll be glad to give you a $5 gift certificate for a future class with us, either in the studio or online. We always like to try to continue to use those brushes until those brushes are just no longer to be used. So, make sure to turn them in. Either come into the studio and drop them off, or you can mail them to us. Make sure to fill out the slip that was in your pizza box with your supplies and put those with your paintbrushes so we know who to send the gift certificate to once we receive those brushes. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and painting with me tonight, please like and subscribe to our channel. That way you can keep up on all the new stuff that we've got coming out on our YouTube channel and what's going on with Wine and Canvas online. And make sure that you're always on our website going to Indianapolis South or Indianapolis North and checking out our calendar for both Wine and Canvas as well as Cookies and Canvas to see all the classes that we have coming up, both in the studio as well as online. And don't forget, we're now offering take and paint kits for both kids and adults. Now, once again, everybody, remember, we're making memories one painting at a time. Everybody, have a wonderful day.